All right, the global economy is bogged down, obviously, in a deep recession. But there's one nation that has felt less pain than the others. China's economy grew 6.1% in the first quarter compared to a year ago. Some analysts say expect the bubble of belief in China to burst. Let's bring in Bloomberg columnist Dave Wilson to explain. And if you can start, I guess, by explaining what bubble of belief actually means.
Well, Albert Edwards, who's a global strategist at Societe Generale, uses that phrase to describe sort of the prevailing view as far as China goes, that somehow they'll be able to keep on growing at something approaching the pace at which they expanded in the first quarter in the midst of a global recession. Suffice it to say, he's a little skeptical about that scenario playing out.
Why is he so skeptical about China's economic prospects at a time when it seems like everybody is so positive on China? Even if they're bullish on the world, it's because of China.
Well, one reason is that he doesn't trust the numbers. I mean, when you talk about that 6.1% rate, that's what the government's telling us. But he kind of figures that perhaps those numbers are not quite the reality of what's going on in China.
He thinks the Communist Party would fabricate numbers?
Well, I don't know about outright fabrication, but he did use the word lies in his report. So, that's clearly
a little bit nicer.
A little bit nicer, perhaps. Yeah.
So 6.1% in the first quarter from a year earlier. He thinks that's way overblown, or is it close? Does it even matter when he calls the statistics lies anyway?
Well,
who would call statistics lies?
More like it doesn't really matter in the sense that there's sort of this presumption that China is going to carry the day. I mean, Merrill Lynch put out his monthly survey of investors, global investors today. And they look at, among other things, is China getting better, getting worse, or hanging in there economically? And the better versus worse, 62% net favoring China's prospects at this point. And it's the highest number since they started really keeping tabs on that in 2003. So there was sort of a presumption that China will carry the day. And that's what he's questioning.
Are there a lot of people who agree? I mean, I have one viewer, probably the most bearish guy in the entire world, who writes to me a lot. He says it's all a load of baloney coming out of China. Are there a lot of other people that are on the same page here?
Well, there aren't a lot, just given the results of that survey. But bear in mind, when Albert Edwards comes out with this kind of call, people pay attention in part because if you think back to 1997, when Asian currencies were falling apart and Asian economies were going into recession, he was in front of that. He was making that call. And he even reminded people in the report this week that he got kind of pilloried for that before he was ultimately proven right. So that's partly why the fact that he's saying what he's saying now about China carries some weight.
Did we show the chart yet? You're talking about the chart of the day here. Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up and explain it here.
Let's do that. And what he focused on, looking at industrial companies' profit growth. And as you can see, they were expanding rather nicely until the past year or two. And these are numbers coming out of the government again. So, the fact that you're down something like 40%, and these are actually numbers calculated by, the state statistics agency, it goes to show you that, it could be worse than this for all we know.
All right, Dave, thanks so much for joining us. That's all we have time for. You can check out, by the way, Dave's column on our website, Bloomberg.com.